Mantle Price Prediction for 2025. Can MNT really explode to $92? A lot of people ask me, Marius, is Mantle really worth it, or is it just another layer 2 hype? And the truth is, Mantle has built an ecosystem in just a few months that moves billions. That's why today we're taking a look at the price prediction and a full analysis. We'll clarify whether $92 is really realistic, what risks you need to be aware of, and why the most exciting phase might be coming up now. Welcome to 10x Crypto, your channel for honest, data-driven altcoin analysis. Mantle, a coin that went from a secret tip to a billion-dollar project in just 2 years. But of course the question now is, can Mantle really explode to $92? Today I'll show you why this altcoin is more than just another layer 2 and could be one of the most exciting opportunities from 2025 to 2030. But first, the question, what exactly is Mantle? In essence, Mantle is a Ethereum Layer-2 network. So that means it builds directly on ETH, making transactions cheaper and faster. Otherwise, Ethereum transactions can sometimes cost $5 to $10. But with Mantle, you only pay a few cents. Not only is that cheaper, but ultimately it's also the key to making Ethereum suitable for the masses. But what technical features are there now? Essentially, Mantle relies on a modular architecture. Instead of bundling everything into one layer, the work is distributed, so to speak. And for data availability, Mantle uses its own DA. This ensures low costs and high security. Currently, Mantle runs with optimistic rollups. In 2025, the project plans to switch to computer of zero-knowledge validate rollups. That means even faster finality and even more security. In short, Mantle combines the scalability of Optimism with the security of ZK. Now the question is, what problem does Mantle actually solve? Ethereum is big, but extremely slow. DeFi, gaming, tokenization, everything grinds to a halt when the network is congested. But Mantle solves this problem. Fast transactions, low fees, and at the same time compatible with Ethereum applications. That naturally makes Mantle exciting for DeFi RWA, but also for TradeFi integration. Mantle is young, fast, and highly funded. It solves real problems of Ethereum and has the chance to be one of the top performers in the Layer 2 space in 2025. But before we dive into the full analysis, grab yourself a coffee and leave a like for me. And if you want to become an insider yourself, check out the free group, the 10x Insider. That's where like-minded people really come together. We exchange ideas about exciting secrets, about altcoins, especially the altcoin gems. You can find all the information in the video description, but be careful. A disclaimer. My channel is not financial advice. It's purely for informational purposes. First, as always, let's look at the market capitalization, about $5.4 billion. That means it's in the mid-cap territory, but of course, there's still room to grow, even if not as much as with microcaps. But imagine if the project manages to capture just 1% of the Layer 2 market, then we're already talking about double-digit billion values. So strong 8 here. Next, the second point, circulating supply. Over 52% of the tokens are in circulation. This naturally reduces the risk of large amounts suddenly being dumped on the market. Many altcoins crash because, of course, a lot of additional coins are released onto the market later on. But with Mantle, the risk is quite manageable, which is definitely a positive. That's why it's a strong 8 in this category. So what about the roadmap? Mantle delivers? From the migration from BitDAO to ZK rollup upgrades planned for 2025, all milestones have been met so far. That naturally builds trust. A project that meets its deadlines also attracts investors, especially in the crypto market, where many end up just making promises. But here it's a strong 9. Next, let's talk about the team. The team ultimately comes from the BitDAO DNA, meaning people with billion-dollar experience and treasury management expertise. Names like Jordi Alexandra or Pascal Leblanc are not beginners. They bring technical knowledge and capital market expertise. So extremely strong. Here, an 8. So what exactly is Mantle's narrative? Mantle positions itself as a liquidity chain, meaning a layer 2 chain that moves capital efficiently across DeFi and TradeFi. The narrative here is crucial, as a world computer. And Solana has the speed, but Mantle has the liquidity. Here, a strong 9. What problem does Mantle actually solve? Ethereum is overloaded. Gas fees are $5 to $10 per transaction. Mantle reduces that to 1 cent, which results in almost instant confirmation. That's real problem solving. Strong 9. How sustainable is it in the end? As mentioned, Mantle runs as a layer 2 on Ethereum, has no mining, only proof of stake. That naturally means 99% less energy consumption. For example, Bitcoin. Especially important for investors who, of course, pay attention to ESG criteria. Here, strength 8. So what about the investors and the capital? Mantle has a gigantic treasury of over $4 billion. With partners like Bybit, Miranda Ventures, and $4 million in funding, the ecosystem is extremely well positioned. 9. So who are Mantle's competitors? The competition is tough. Arbitrum, Optimism, but also Polygon. But Mantle really has an edge here because the data architecture is extremely strong and modular, and the fees are low. However, Mantle could become the new Polygon, especially when the ZKs go live. And by the way, if you're interested in other altcoins, be sure to check out the 10x playlist, the 10x universe, and subscribe to the channel, because next weekend I have 2 altcoins that could be extremely exciting for you. Definitely a strong 8 in this area. Marketing, Bybit partnerships, social campaigns, events like GameFest. Mantle really presents itself extremely strongly. And they have $70 million from Bybit's network backing them. So an extremely strong 8. How simple is the idea? Well, layer 2 for Ethereum, faster, cheaper, more modular. I think everyone immediately understands the story and what they're for. And that's extremely important for adoption. A strong 9. So what about the long-term vision? Ultimately, Mantle wants to become a banking chain, with 6 pillars, including Mantle X for AI and DeFi. $40 trillion in market potential by 2030. If Mantle captures even a small piece of that, there's massive growth potential. A strong 10, then Mantle is actually deflationary. What does it look like there? Maximum 6.21 billion tokens. No active burn, but always a fixed upper limit. So in the end, it is a given that no hardcore deflation like with BNB, but solid. 7. Then fully diluted market capitalization. At $10 billion and $34 million, it's almost 2 times the market cap. That's very healthy. No overvaluation, no extreme inflation. So here, a strength of 9. Then, what about Mantle's liquidity? The ratio is 0.0647, well above the minimum value. That means the liquidity is extremely strong and it's not a zombie coin. Strength 10 in this area. How was the initial token distribution? Was it fair? Yes, it was a fair distribution because it has a linear lock. In other words, there aren't any big whales who can dump their holdings. That definitely provides protection. So here as well, a strong 8. What about the top coin holders? The treasury is large but well distributed. There are no large wallets holding more than 20%. This makes Mantle more decentralized than many of its competitors. A solid 7 here. So what is the utility of Mantle? Well, of course, it can be used for gas fees. Then there's staking, but also voting rights. In other words, Mantle has real utility. It's not just speculation. A strong 9 here. So, how strong is the Mantle community? Over 1 million wallets. Active on Discord, active within the team. A strong community with value drivers. And the sentiment is currently extremely positive. Are you already a Mantle holder? Let me know in the comments. I actually did a poll and Mantle came out on top. So it seems a lot of people are really interested in how well Mantle performs. Definitely a strong 8 here. Now, let's move on to the events. As I said, CK upgrade at the end of 2025. Mantle XKI launch. New Bybit integration. These are triggers that can spark price movements. Extremely important. A solid 8. Mantle is actually one of the most exciting layer 2 coins for 2025. It has evolved from the BitDAO experiment into a multi-billion-dollar project, and the numbers speak for themselves. As always, we'll look at my key points and the 10 times analysis, especially focusing on the 10 times ranking list here. Mantle is a mid-cap project, much smaller than Ethereum, but still big enough to be taken seriously. 52% of the tokens are already in circulation, which is a positive sign. The roadmap is strong, the team delivers, and they've already rolled out some really significant upgrades. The fund within the ecosystem is also solid overall. They're well valued. The narrative is strong. They want to be a liquidity chain. This is definitely needed in the DeFi and RWA sectors, and especially as institutional investors continue to enter the market. And not to forget, the community is growing rapidly. over 1 million wallets. In comparison, on my 10 times ranking list, it has reached a very high position, especially for a layer 2. Extremely strong. That shows that there is real potential here. My assessment, this isn't speculation. They have real use cases and are currently one of the strongest layer 2s. And if you want to know whether I also hold Mantle in my personal portfolio, then Zenix Elite is exactly right for you. There you also get full access to the Zenix ranking list where, by the way, I don't just have altcoins ranked that I've already analyzed on YouTube, but also a whole range of other altcoins that haven't even appeared on YouTube yet. There you have a list of over 100 altcoins soon, all ranked, so you know exactly which altcoin is strong and which one isn't as strong, with all the information you need. Check the video description or just scan the QR code here, and you'll be taken straight to it, including the price scenarios. For me, Mantle remains an altcoin with a future, and it's an exciting opportunity this year, especially in the altcoin scene. Of course, the most exciting question comes now at the end. How high can Mantle actually go? And that's exactly why we're now going to take a look together at the price forecast from 2025 to 2030. As always, let's start with the bear scenario. Imagine the market gets tougher, Bitcoin drops, the mood turns sour, and investors pull out. In that case, Mantle could end up somewhere between $1 and $2 or just move sideways. Let's move on to the normal scenario. Let's assume the market grows steadily, Ethereum gains strength, and layer 2 solutions become mainstream again. In that case, it's realistic for Mantle to grow to between $2 and $3.5. That's solid growth. Now let's look at the optimistic scenario. But what if Mantle shows its full potential? 7K rollups go live, institutions get involved, and the liquidity chain narrative takes off. Then we're talking about price ranges between $5 and $7. That's already a significant increase. Now let's move on to a very optimistic scenario. Imagine the entire crypto market goes full throttle. Ethereum dominates, Layer is the foundation of DeFi. Mantle could shoot up to $10 to $15 during this hype. That would really be a game changer. Let's move on to Vision 2030. What could happen in 2030? Imagine the crypto market grows massively in the next bull run, $40 trillion in total valuation. Mantle secures a small share of that. But then we're already talking about a price target of $92 for Mantle. That sounds crazy. But purely mathematically, that's still possible, especially if the entire crypto market takes off massively in a bull run by 2030. And by the way, if you want to buy altcoins like Mantle, they're usually not available on every exchange. I'll always link the exchange where you can get the altcoins below in the pinned comment. And if you sign up using my link or the QR code, you'll even get a bonus. That supports me. Now let's get to my chart analysis. What would I do now? Would I buy it now or sell it? What's my analysis?
Yes, hello and welcome to the chart analysis of Mantle. First, some information at the beginning. I use TradeFi and a self-developed indicator. The indicator essentially focuses on overbought and oversold zones. A quick example. Here, a lot of people sold. That means we're entering an oversold zone. This is then shown here as I've marked a certain point with the green dot. What this means for me is that these are entry points. And the other way around, when a lot of people are buying, we enter an overbought zone. This is then indicated here with a red dot. And then I know, for example, that I could take profits here or exit completely. That makes things easier for me. There are many indicators that are extremely complicated. For me, it's important that the calculation runs in the background and that I can see everything here clearly and quickly. For example, my use case is that when I do dollar cost averaging, I still want to have the best entry points here. But if I want to make short-term trades over weeks or months, I also get good entry points here. As I said, green is always an extremely good entry point in large dots, and in small ones, like here, for example, it's more about trend reversals, usually on shorter time frames. And that way I always have a complete overview of the market. Looking at Mantle, you can see we've gone up extremely. We've gone extremely far up. If you take a look here, my indicator also triggered an alert and signaled green. From that point on, we've gone up over 243% so far. What this means right now is simply that we've entered a massively overbought zone here and have already seen a bit of a sell-off. But we're still in a range where we're way too high up. That's why, from my perspective, I would definitely wait here until we get back into zones down here. until a green dot forms again, or at least until there's a trend reversal back into the green within the range. That's why I would wait for now. And by the way, if you're interested in knowing when my entry points are or when my indicator actually signals green or red, I share all of that in my 10 times elite membership. You can check it out in the video description or via the QR code.
If you find Mantle interesting, then I recommend you check out this altcoin analysis, which is also extremely exciting. It's also a layer 2 for Ethereum. So you can actually make a direct comparison. All right, have fun and see you in a bit.